Um, why am I so awkward when I start these videos? Hi, I'm Josadak, and today's topic is going to be family because I recently spent an entire weekend with my family and I cried several times. And I just want to talk about how like fleeting it all is, especially as someone who grew up really family oriented. Um, but also with a bit of an indifference towards my family in my kind of college years or mid or like early 20s, just based off of the things that were happening. And to give you some context, I grew up very family oriented. I grew up visiting my parents' countries. I grew up, respecting my aunts and uncles and just being surrounded by these people who, I guess, in my little child brain, were supposed to love me and protect me and be there for me and support me. However, it wasn't always like that, and it didn't always feel. It felt more like they were at times it felt like they were against me, and not against me like they were trying to sabotage me, but the advice that they were giving me wasn't sound, and I could tell that it was coming from a place of like either bitterness or just really small-mindedness, and we disagreed on a few things. I would never say that I was like flat out fighting or I was, it was never the type of family where you would like flick each other off or anything like that. Definitely not. That was just, it was beyond that. But it was definitely from a place of I'm I'm seeing how close-minded this place is, that I need to like step away and do my own thing. And I felt a lot of, I don't want to say shame, but I felt bad. I felt bad doing that because I love my family and I've always honored togetherness, and there was definitely a time where I felt like I would rather things would be much easier for me mentally and just in my own life if I wasn't attached to this specific family, or if I wasn't so attached to like my responsibilities or my loyalty to my family. Just because there was definitely a lot of times where church was more important than dreams, when like family drama was took the forefront of all interactions and community. There was a few years where family members weren't talking to each other or going or having the same Christmases. It was very odd for me because I grew up with like family togetherness all the time, like asados, birthdays, Christmases, Thanksgiving, everybody together all the time. Sunday after school, not after school, after church Sunday meals were so huge for my family, and I'm sure that's very common. But as we got older and I started seeing kind of like how maybe my aunts were pushing me towards something that wasn't for me. Maybe they were pushing marriage, or maybe they were pushing just ideas that were, in my opinion, outdated and I didn't agree with, or they would say things that I didn't agree with, or they would criticize instead of support. Either what I wore or my choices in like schooling, or I don't know, career aspirate, whatever like dreams that I may have had, I felt like these were not places to share. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to share every little thing with every member of your family. That's crazy. But yeah, I was like, oh, this is a nice thing to like, it's a nice thing to interact with family at certain occasions, but I'm okay with not speaking to so and so for months at a time. And I feel like that's normal. Especially when you're trying to like go out and do your own thing and like grow in the world. And there was definitely some times where like there was tension. There was this whole era, and I'll never forget this whole era where two sides of my family were fighting because of the church institution that they were going to. I'm talking about the physical building. It wasn't that anyone had left religion or anyone had left Christianity. So my entire family's Christian, right? And religion is a big deal to them. And we were all attending the same four walls, the same church. And it's a pretty big church, pretty massive. There was a lot of hype around it, and it was very involved. It was very all-consuming, and it had a hierarchy. There was a lot of things involved with that church, and my family was super involved with it. But when my dad, after 5 years of going there, was like, I'm gonna go do my own thing. I'm gonna go start my own ministry, and I'm gonna do, he's gonna do his own thing. I'm like, perfect, fine, that sounds great. I'm gonna make the decision, because at that point I was already like over 18. I'm gonna make the decision whether I want to continue going here on my own or not. And my dad was kind of, he was kind of like, oh, I don't love that, but yes, do what you want. You're over 18, I guess. It was rocky there for a second, but at the end of the day, me and my sister, we decided to stay. And I remember one of my aunts in particular being so upset about this decision because it felt to her like a betrayal. It felt like breaking up the family, which is insane. And my dad did it. He went off and started his own church, and kind of low-key expecting the support of his siblings, my aunts and my uncles, to come and be a part of the church and help grow it and do something. But this was I truly believe his misguidance was in, I swear all this makes sense. His misguidance was, or his mistake was assuming that, just because you brought people into religion, that they were going to come and support you or do whatever you want to do without you fully informing them of the decision or making them a part of the process. He kind of was just like, I'm just going to do this and I expect my family members to follow me. And that wasn't the case. They were so into this church, this other church, that there was just really no way to leave. It would have been like at least 10, 15 people that my dad had at that church, at the original church, that had they wanted to, they would have followed him, and that church would have lost those people, even though it was a big church. My aunts were just, and their husbands were just not in agreement. And I remember this era so well. I think I must have been 18 or 19 at that point, probably 18. And I remember being so upset because the family wasn't getting together anymore. The family wasn't, I don't know what in me felt like I needed to pull people together because, again, like, I'm like the youngest one. I'm the baby of like my dad's kids. And there was younger siblings as well, who everyone was getting affected. Like there wasn't any more birthdays. There wasn't more get-togethers. Like Sunday was so different now. And Sunday used to be my favorite day. Just like being able to see my cousins and being able to have fun and just enjoy. It wasn't like that anymore. It was so backstabby and like talky and gossipy and weird, and I just did not like it or respect it. I lost a lot of respect for my family members in that time, and it sucks because I think respect is like the foundation of how you treat someone, because we learned that a lot in church. But like I feel like you should always maybe have it doesn't mean you have to bend down or follow along or follow in footsteps. So I think respect is a huge thing, especially with like family members and stuff. I don't know, but that doesn't mean, I don't know, it means different things to different people. At the same time, the point is I lost a lot of respect because I felt like the adults were handling this in a super it didn't need to be professional, this is a family matter, but it was a super non-mature way. It was super childish, super like super like, I'm gonna have my separate thing and you're the enemy. And it was so weird. Like, you were all going to we're still all a part of the same religion with the same practices. We were just doing it in separate places. Eventually, me and my sister came over and we started supporting my dad in his church. Not entirely because we wanted to, but we felt that friction. But it was like maybe a year or two later, after my dad had left and started his own thing, that we were like, okay, let's go, because this is getting a little it's a little touchy. I don't think it would be in our best interest to stick around. And again, that church is like such a difficult place. Once you're in it, it's super hard to pull out, it's super hard to not be involved anymore. Like, once you're involved, and like you'd have to disappear off the planet of the earth, I guess. But like they'll try to find you. I'll make a video about that church at some other point in time because wow. But we left, I feel on good terms. We kind of said goodbye to everyone in the best way we knew how, and we left and we joined my dad. And I don't think this surprised anyone. We're his daughters, and of course eventually, it did take a while, but eventually we did follow along and help him out in his church. Although in that era, I was not the most helpful. I was a little helpful, but I wasn't the most helpful that I could be. I give that credit to my sister mostly. But yeah, it was just a time where I was just like, oh, this whole back and forth church family thing is not for me, and it's very stupid, and I don't appreciate it. And it was at a time where we had to visit each other's houses separately. It was so stupid. Truly, it was so stupid. The family, like, was divided in two. I had two aunts and uncles and cousins going to this church. no, I had three aunts and uncles going to this church, and then I had my parents and a few other family friends who, and plus myself and my sister go to my dad's church, and eventually we had an aunt, or what did we have? Eventually, I had a cousin of mine and her husband break away and come over to my dad's church just because they felt like things had gotten a little bit too much, and I don't think going from one church to the other solved the problem necessarily or like made things any better tension wise, but it was definitely something like I still want to be around family when I worship God, which is notable, which is great. Makes sense. Like so stupid for everyone to be fighting. And it was really weird because it was a little unspoken, but it was also a little backstabby. And I lost a lot of respect for my aunts and my uncles and even my own father because I don't think it was handled well. I felt like everyone was acting like things were daisies, but I'm like, well, we're not even a family anymore. We don't even talk to each other anymore. This is so weird. And in turn, I felt like me and like the younger cousins and my sister, we all kind of formed our own alliance, and we were like, we're gonna stick together no matter what. This stupid fight is not gonna affect us, and it didn't. I feel like we really grew strong in that time, just because we would connect and we'd gather together separately and we'd do our own things and not if we were doing Secret Santa or Christmas things or birthday things, we do it separate from everyone else, which is kind of like continuing on with everything. But I do remember having a conversation and sitting down with my aunt and my uncle, and my dad. I believe my sister was there too, and this was recently after my dad had broken away. And I remember that being such a disaster because it was kind of my idea. It was my idea. I'm like, we need to go talk to them. We need to resolve things. We need to do something as a family. It's been so long. And like, I don't know, I felt like I in my naive head, I was like, I need to rescue. I need to like save the day. And family was really important to me. It meant a lot to me and it made me happy. So I went, and I remember me and my uncle being like kind of like not neutral. He was definitely more on the older church's side, but because his wife was so involved in everything, my aunt. But he agreed with me, like, we need to do something as a family, like let's gather together and let's plan something. So the idea I had come up with after we had spoken and we had kind of like, you know, aired some things off of our chest, which was difficult, I suggested we have some sort of barbecue, like the old days. I suggested that we have an asado, that we pick a park, we go there, we enjoy, invite everybody, the whole family's there, which is going to be, I don't know how many people, but a lot of people, and, you know, everyone should show up. So they agreed. We planned it, we picked the day, people brought food, people started grilling, all the kids started playing on the playground. You know, this was like a classic park for us, a park we'd been visiting forever, and I remember just helping the kids on the swings and just like running around and having fun when I started to hear shouting coming from where my family was all under the giant gazebo tent thing. And I look over and I see this gathering of my family members kind of like hovering over people, and I'm not sure what's happening. My sister runs over and she starts talking about how so-and-so had mentioned how they weren't told to bring food, so they didn't bring food. And that had somehow been so offensive that they decided to bring it up. And that was an uncle. And my dad, being irritated by this, said something in return. And it was stupid, truly. And maybe I don't get it. And maybe I don't, like, though that's their own, like, sibling thing that I don't understand. But in my head, I was like, you couldn't keep it together for one afternoon? A couple of hours of eating food and bliss, because it was awesome before that. They had decided to not talk about church because obviously it's a little touchy, which I'm actually glad about because I think they've kept that up. They've kept things mostly separate, but they'll mention things from here and there. But it's more supportive now. So this story does have like a happy ending or like a happy continuance, and I just remember being so embarrassed because this was in public. Other people were at this park. It was a big park, but there was other people at this park. Other families, other birthdays, other things going on. And we were making the most noise because the playground is not close to where the tent gazebo thing, or the patio, whatever that is. And there was so much shouting, and I think people were crying, and my grandma was crying and like threatening and like telling people to be quiet, and it was so awful. I remember in that very moment, I gave up. And I, yeah, I think I gave up, and I was like, okay, I'm not trying this. These people are not ready for this. These people are not over whatever the heck's inside, and that's bothering them so much. Unless they decide to do something like counseling, I'm not going to be the one. Not me, not the youngest member. Like, this is stressing me out so much. And I just remember feeling like so devastated on the playground, looking over at my family and thinking, wow, wow. I felt bad for my uncle, the one who helped organize it with me, because they did most of the like financial work of buying the food and all that. It was a together thing, but still, I felt bad, and I just kind of told my younger cousins, "Hey, get in the car. We're gonna go get snow cones," and we did. We left. We went and got snow cones, and I don't think anyone was upset or surprised by that. I think it made sense, actually. I'm sure between all the fighting, many people stormed off. And I never felt like we were a dysfunctional family. Like my whole, of course not, but like it felt so below us. You know, I feel like we were better than that. I had believed. And then when I spoke to my younger cousins, my sister, and like the other cousins my age, I just remember thinking and talking to them and saying, like, we cannot be like that. Like, things may happen, disagreements may happen, we might not all love each other's choices. And they were in such agreement with me. I remember we all went out to eat, and we're gonna do things differently. Like, we don't have to be the classiest or the perfectest family. No, that's not what I'm talking about. That's impossible. I'm talking about how we treat each other. It's always gonna come down to love and kindness and respect, because that cannot happen to us. That is embarrassing, and I cannot believe what we just witnessed. So yeah, I kind of walked away from family matters in terms of the church, in terms of like just like gatherings and stuff like that. But I remember to pay extra close attention to my cousins and my siblings, primarily my sister and my brother, who are like both different ages. But I just remember just spending so much time with them and getting closer to them, and my cousins as well, and just really kind of like working on that relationship. And I really loved that because I could cry thinking about how much I feel like we've impacted each other and how much we've supported each other, and how I don't know if anybody's even said how good of a job we've done. But you know, nothing's perfect, nothing is solid. I mean, we're solid, but like nothing is set in stone in terms of like we've done, here's the rule book and we followed every rule. There's definitely been like, I guess, like little whatever here and there, but it's always come down to like wanting to fix things, wanting to talk things out, and wanting to show love to each other and support to each other. And that's always been number one for us. And I think they deserve to all have like a giant thank you, or a good job. Like, they deserve to hear it, because everybody put in the work to like keep the family, or to keep ourselves away from that. Like, we did definitely separate ourselves, and we definitely did our own things moving forward. And that was kind of like the precedent for like 5 years, like 4 or 5 years. And then I remember things were starting to get a little bit less tensiony as the time went on, which is stupid that it took that long. But eventually my aunt came over to my dad's church, and which left only one more aunt and uncle at the previous church, because by that time everyone had migrated over to my dad's church, and I think just out of maybe loyalty and strength or whatever, or like ranking, my other aunt is still there, and which is fine. Do whatever is best for you, or whatever benefits you or works for you, you know. Being upset over where someone decides to worship, like, is beyond me, in terms of like, I think I can understand a little bit of where the hurt was coming from. In my dad's case, just feeling like, whoa, like, where's my family? They're not in these rows right now, helping me with this, working on this. And you know, that is sad, especially since me and my sister weren't there the first year or 2 years. And I could understand that as well, but it still does not mean that people owe you. I'm sorry, but people do not owe you their faith or where they go. They don't owe that to you. They just don't. So despite feeling hurt, accepting that people make their own decisions about where they want to go to worship, especially. I think that is 1000% a personal choice. Despite if it hurts you or not, that can be acknowledged, that can be talked about. It does not mean that anybody should be going anywhere. Even if they feel bad, they shouldn't go to a place that they don't want to be, or that they feel like isn't growing them or benefiting them or whatever. That's your personal choice. And yeah, so my family members started to get together more for, I think especially this Christmas and New Year's and all that, this year, like, we're only in February, but like I feel like this is the one where people are going to get back together again. And you're talking about you're talking about 6, maybe 6 or 7 years when this all started to now, where I finally feel like people are talking to each other again. Such a huge disruption in like the family system. And I remember my oldest brother, he had moved to North Carolina so long ago, but what a decision that was, because he truly stayed out of drama, which he's not a fan of anyway, but was able to still weigh in and kind of find out things and kind of just observe the choices that family members made without like pressuring or looking into changing any minds, because what would that even be? But that was I think the best thing, and it kind of taught me like maybe I should separate myself, maybe I should move somewhere and have some separation, which is kind of the reason why I moved 45 minutes from the primary hub of where my family all lives, like my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, my parents. They all live in the same town, so I live about 45 minutes away from them. It was kind of like this idea of I want to be separated from anything drama or family related, unless I choose to drive down there or be a part of it. And in this last year and a half, I've grown. This last year, I've grown so incredibly close to my family, and I've seen a lot of healing happen. And I feel like we're getting better than the older days, because the older days were great, where we were all having fun and enjoying. But I feel like things can only go up, and things can get better, and people have learned lessons, and people have like made decisions, and people have accepted that, which is great. Like, that's all. So I'm really excited to see where things go from here, because just like even yesterday, I was sitting with my aunt, who I rarely ever visit. In fact, it'd been probably a year or longer since I have seen, talked to, or listened to her. I felt that I was hearing her stories about their lives in Dominican Republic, like all the siblings and the cousins and everything. And my brother was there. And I just felt like, wow, like this family is so much lore, so much different lore, and so much hardship and so much strength. Like, oh my gosh, you could make 3 movies out of the lives my dad has lived alone. So hearing about my aunt's life and how it affected my dad, and how they like persevered, and like everything they went through from the journey from Dominican Republic to New York to Florida, and to have it torn apart because of buildings, church buildings, which I'm glad they never let it, fully dissolve or fall apart, because they kept at this point in time, I feel like the relationship is getting stronger and has healed to a certain extent. And I love that, because that means a lot to me as someone who cared so much, who had detached herself and saw so much hope and potential in this last year. So to hear that my aunt, the one who had remained at the other church, visit my dad's church recently for a conference that my dad was hosting, really shook me up, and really just like, without committing to the church, without like deciding that she was going to give that up and go to my dad's church, she said, I'm going to come. Like, this is how I perceive it. I'm going to come, I'm going to show support, and I'm going to be with my family. And that's beautiful. That's amazing. And that's all anyone could ever ask for, I think. So I love that. And I don't know, it has been an interesting few years with family. And I feel like this last year has been so healing and so repairing. Like, even me moving this close, and I have serious considerations of moving back to that hub with family again. Not to like fully commit myself, but to like make make my own decisions and know that people have learned enough to trust that. And oh, that makes me so happy and excited. And oh, I've definitely cried so much this weekend. Just I took so many photos. I like there was a moment when we were all at, this is so iconic. Truly, I don't think you guys know how iconic this is. And also, thank you for listening. There's this shop, this ice cream shop in my town where my whole family lives. My brother was visiting with his wife and his daughter, and we kind of all decided to get together. All the cousins, my sister, my parents had all decided to get together at this ice cream shop that has been there since, I don't even know, since I've gotten to Florida, probably when I was 3. So it's been there for 25 years. And it's just such a staple. Like, they keep the same flavors, and they keep the shop exactly the same. They haven't expanded despite how popular it is. It is such an iconic place, and that if anything ever happens to that place, I'll be so sad. But we went there, and we were all sitting outside in these seats that have been there since like probably the early 2000s. And we were all talking, and it was such a perfect night where my dad, when he gets surrounded by family, he starts making jokes and being a class clown and starts dancing and starts doing all of these things, and everyone was laughing their heads off. We were all sharing stories and asking questions, and just and I decided to take as many pictures as I could, and I took video as well because, my God, I could cry thinking about it because it was so great. It was like that feeling that I had when I was a kid back again, but better because I'm older and I can appreciate it. And yeah, I just really loved that. It was a great night, and I hope that my brother felt that way and my dad felt that way, and I'm pretty sure that they did. But I loved every second of it, eating ice cream and just like laughing and, telling stories, and it was so beautiful. And I'm glad that my brother's wife got to be part of it too, because those are the beautiful things that I hope everyone gets to witness within their own families. So that was just a long way to say that it was a long way to explain the dispute, I guess. the I don't even know, again, I don't know what I'm gonna title this video, because originally I was gonna go for a different thing, but then I decided to tell this story. I think I'm gonna title this video The Rift. I don't know. I'm gonna call this video something like I always do. I come up with the title afterwards. But thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it, and I love you. Ta-ta!